Hello, everyone. It's been a while. It's just Skimp, or You Eat Cheese, or Gizmo Gaming, whichever is your pleasure. And I'm just doing a little rant slash update video, mostly about roommates. Mm. To start this story, it starts off like a year and a half ago. Um, my mom went batshit. To put it simply, I accidentally knocked over some sourdough bread that she was making in the fridge, and it went and fell over when I was putting some milk back in the fridge because I had to rush to work. Um, well, I ended up working like an 11 or 12 hour shift that day, and my dad's calling me, telling me, calm down. I need you to stay calm. Don't overreact. Uh, you'll know when you get home. And that was like a giant pit in my stomach. And so I get home, and there's fucking milk, orange juice, soda, um, cereal, leftovers that my mom had made, uh, like frozen foods that I had bought from my old grocery store job, and just there was stuff everywhere. And it was demoralizing, for sure. But it also, I just want to see if the light would work better. It also was just not the greatest, to put it simply. It wasn't just everything in the floor where we had to use a literal snow shovel to just scoop it up and get it out of that condo. I'm surprised they got their return on it, if I'm being honest. They got their return, because they managed to clean it so good you couldn't tell. But she poured it over my electronics, including my gaming PC at the time, which I have gifted to my nephew. Henceforth, I repaired it. I had it fixed. It had one of the RAM sticks were kind of messed up, and they bought a RAM stick for it at $60, DDR4. It was before the giant spike in pricing, so they didn't have to spend $700 on it. I'm grateful for them for that. That would have exactly been the greatest gift if the RAM had spiked when I gave it to them. But to kind of stay on track, that happened, and I wanted to move out. There's more to that story. Family discourse kind of happened. I got petty and angry in the moment, and I told all my siblings. My mother was trying to rekindle relationships with my siblings, and I set that back pretty far because it showed that she had not changed that much. But again, that's not what this story is completely about. It's mostly about my life currently and how depressed I am with having roommates that I never thought I would be depressed with. So, that happened. I lost my job at the grocery store a couple months later. That was very demoralizing. Everyone there was like family, and I very rarely see my old coworkers now. And last time I did, I was literally in and out because I had to go all the way to a different part of the state, like a good, easy, 4 hour drive. So No, I lost my job. Uh, my mom didn't know initially, but my dad did, and he finally told her. So that was constant, you caused me to lose my relationship with my kids. Every day, I would hear something like that. That's pretty demoralizing and makes you not really want to do much, if I'm being honest. So that happens. As a joke, I talked to one of my coworkers at my new job, and I was like, hey, we should move in together. I knew he was rough around the edges, but overall, I thought he was a pretty funny person. He's pretty charismatic. So, that, like, 1 centimeter, I didn't even give him an inch, I gave him a centimeter with a joke. And to say he took it to stretched it out to a mile would be an understatement. Like, he was calling where I live because, I said, it's really not that bad when you got like 2 or 3 people living together in these places. Because if you're living by yourself, we're spending $1,480. Not great. That's almost $2,000 per month. No bills though, except for the electric. Trash and water provided. Awesome. And free internet. What ends up happening is, like I said, he called the realtors here. And so, I'm going into the office here to go pick up a bigger package because, it couldn't fit in the mailbox and it was too expensive to just leave at my door. So I'm grabbing it and they're like, hey, you need to make a decision on this. So all of a sudden, I'm placed in the middle because, I work with this guy. I don't like confrontation. I've never had. And I do have a bit of an anxiety. And so, I kind of have this choice to make. Do I commit to moving in with this guy that, I made a joke to, that we should move in together? Or do I kind of just stand my ground and say, no, me and my sister are contemplating whether or not I move down there, if I move, if I can get her to try and move up here. That kind of didn't go nowhere, if I'm being honest. Me and my sister. So I kind of didn't want to just say, I'm gonna stay living with my parents, especially with what happened with my mother. So I ultimately kind of just said yes. And so, considering I said yes, the realtors were going to approve him being able to actually look at apartments. More or less, he would have been put on a wait list, but because I have lived here in several different condos, while being here, they first come, first serve, but I got bumped up to the front because, I have a history of actually, living here. So more or less, his credit score and just everything about him was not very appealing to them, to put it nicely. So it's not even like I'm saying this to be a pompous asshole. If it wasn't for me, he would not be living here, for several reasons. The second reason is we had to pay, both of us each had to pay first and last. And then both of us had to pay as well, I'm blanking on the name right now, security deposit, right? And those were separate for us. And those were about what we're still paying now. but each. And, you know, he was saying that he couldn't really pay that much by the time we were supposed to. And considering it's the first fucking payment, I was kind of stressed out that entire time. To the fact I was getting him moved in first before me. And I just lived just across the street, more or less. Like, there's a big condominium, and it would not take me long to get moved. And that's just a fact. Well, he was saying that because of his insurance that he has to pay for his car. So, me and my sister Robin, you probably heard of hers before, if you've watched us playing Dead by Daylight. I was planning a trip for both of us, one for Japan, one for Australia, as vacations. And, you know, I was putting about $400 bi-weekly into the savings account. Actually, it was $450. It was damn near $500 bi-weekly that I was putting into the savings account, and then $20 for the Australia one because I was going to be much later, and, you know, it was supposed to be, you know, plane ticket for me and her, and then some type of housing once we got there. I had to use all of it to cover not just my portion, but a decent chunk of his too. I did not see any money back from that. I don't expect to see any money back from that. But we got moved in. Yay. Well, it was actually pretty good the first couple of days. I mean, this little snot right here that's sitting on my lap, my dog, I love her. She got into something, made a mess on the carpet. I had to fucking clean it up. It's much cleaner now. Thank goodness. And we actually watched Child's Play, and that is a great memory for me. You know, we were so fucking broke, but I had my fucking streaming services, which I still have, and, you know, it was great. That first couple of days really were some highlights of my life, I'd say. Like, it was just very... I felt like I belonged. Like I had a good friend, if I'm being honest. And, you know, as time passed, true colors have been shown. Said coworker met a girl. We actually knew each other a little bit before we moved in, and then by the time we had moved in, you know, we'd known each other for about 2 to almost 3/4 of a year before he met this woman. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is now I've known him for about almost a year and a quarter, I think. And he's known his now fiance, that same girl, half a year, maybe. Maybe it's closer to a year. Timeline's a little fuzzy to me, but like, they definitely were going and moving fast, to put it simply. And, you know, she had troubles at home, and, you know, I've had my own troubles at home, so I didn't mind whenever she came over. I mean, it's also his place. But then, you know, it started becoming more and more permanent, and then she actually moved in. And, you know, she wasn't too bad the first few days she was here. And I wouldn't exactly say she's bad per se now. It's just a lot of little things that she does that grinds my nerves sometimes. Like, let me take you with me to the kitchen. So, I have no idea what that just fucking did. I was going to turn the camera. It would not let me. This is my KitchenAid. I spent a lot of money for it. It immediately kind of proactively kind of became hers. She uses it way more than me because she's usually kind of stealing it from me, if I'm being honest. This air fryer, that is mine down there. Hi Yoda. Like, most of the cutlery in the cabinets, which I mean right now it's just fucking red Solo cups. But like, in the sink, she cooked. Normally, I would just go ahead and wash it. But I never eat the shit that they cook, if I'm being honest. And I kind of stopped doing it. And so now they'll just sit in there. And so to make sure we don't get cockroaches, like if they don't clean it after a decent amount, I will go out of my way and clean it because I don't want fucking bugs. I don't know if you can pick it up. They got a puppy. That's also their other dog down there with mine. Hey. Hey. And, you know, my main issue to that is, you know, I had to pay for my dog, right? Their dog and their puppy, not being paid for at all, did not get neutered. I don't know about shots. Mine has. Costs fucking money. A lot of money's been spent from me. And so, you know, I spent all this money just to be able to have basic living. So when I started buying things, at first I guess it became the norm. You know, I was just gonna buy stuff that I wanted. So like right here, my little entertainment system, you know, different consoles, and then, you know, the games, and, you know, I got a cigar box, even though I don't really smoke, and if I do smoke, it's out on the porch, because they're not really supposed to be smoking in here, except they'll be smoking their pot in here. It's like just a bunch of stuff that drives me crazy. Another thing is their room, right? I ain't gonna open that. They will just come up to my door and they'll just, hey, how you doing? Well, more than just, hey, how you doing? It's usually to ask me to do something. And normally I would not mind, but it's like, I lock my door now, because, like, I could just be rocking out with caca out, you know? I normally am not, but I could be. So, there's that, and, you know, there's the fact that, so they'll be cleaning all the time. I have puppy pads out for her. They're playing. And I usually have them right there, because that's where Gidget likes them. Every time they do a pickup, they will pick up my fucking new puppy pads that have not been pissed on, have not been shat on, nothing. They're perfectly fine, they're new, and they'll get fucking thrown away. That's another thing that fucking pisses me off, because they'll just throw away shit that doesn't need to be thrown away. But, like, I do like my roommates. Like, I know I'm just griping and getting, you know, progressively pissed as I actually talk about what's happened while living here. But, like, the pots and pans, like, I didn't show the pots and pans. I think one pot or pan is theirs. all the, you know, knives, forks, spoons, all that bought by my mother, actually specifically said for me. You know, we live all here together, so, you know, I don't mind. I feel so bad for that puppy right now. But I'm not going to just break into their room to let the puppy out, because not my room. But, like, they just bought puppy food recently, thank goodness. Speaking of that puppy, they were just taking her food. Which, granted, I did give them permission to, but that's because they were continuously not buying that puppy food. They were letting it eat her food, which, you know, that's a very big dog. Shouldn't be eating, you know, a puppy. You should not be eating, you know, adult dog food. So, you know, it was having upset stomach. And then they came up to me asking me to play vet, essentially. You know, what's wrong with the puppy? And, you know, that part I don't mind too much, but I was very upfront. I'm not, you know, I'm not a vet. Just because, you know, I'm watching National Geographic all the time, and I do have college grade textbooks for mammalogy and all this other stuff. I'm not a vet. I'm not taking veterinary school. Like, excuse me. Hey, baby. I can run away. Then, like, they're also rough on the place. Like, I know that. And I'm afraid when I have to pay for this stuff later, because I don't know if they're going to pay for it or if we're both going to have to pay for it. But like this, they used the chairs from my granny and spun around and just dig into the fucking wall. Speaking of that, the one I was sitting in, over here, this is the one I usually sit in. It is perfectly pristine. I keep it in good condition. It came from my granny. My granny is dead. No tears. Nothing. Good. It's a good lazy boy. This one, it's still usable. But this is the one that my roommate, the one that was originally my coworker, complete and utter terrorage right here. And way worse over here. Like, I can fit 3 fingers in there. Not good. And I was actually talking to my dad. I was like, you know, that was Granny's. Not my grandma from his side, but my granny from my mom's side. And I was like, you know, I like those. I think I'm going to just go and find, like, a chairperson to repair it. He told me it wouldn't be worth it just to give it to him. So that's probably what's going to happen there. But, like, what if they tear up that lazy boy too? Is, like, the thing I'm worried about. Like, you know, almost everything in this fucking condo is mine. Like, their bed used to be my old bed, because I had 2 of them that I just put together. It got sold to another coworker who actually ended up being a pedophile. An interesting story in itself. But like this, all these books, and then also Legos and shoes. The shoes were put in there because of the puppy. I didn't want her coming around chewing them up. But, like, here's my other bookshelf. And this is a big pet peeve of mine. This right here. So, right now, I don't exactly have a set place for my little goobers. No, I like having little decorations. Up there, it's kind of a mess right now. That's kind of like the designated place that I keep Mjolnir. Well, these goobers, you know, and then also this fucking soda for some reason that's there. These were personally placed right here. These were put in a medicine bag for me, you know, in case I need them, and they just put them right here. And these were not always knocked over or turned in the back. It's because of the fucking shock collar that they have for their dog. They just, quite literally, to recreate it, they'll just throw it and it'll knock into my things, and you can kind of see here on the beak on Piplup, well, that's coming off. And you could argue, you know, it's because I took them out of the box of the Funko Pop box. But I actually like them being out and about. It's 100% on them, in my personal opinion, because they just throw that fucking thing in there. Because my roommate, he has anger issues. I'll just straight out say it. He has anger issues. Hey. What are you mad at? He has anger issues, and, like, he... just different stuff. Like, he almost broke up with his girlfriend before they became fiancés. And I technically could have changed that fact, because I literally had to go up to him, you know, being a friend. I was like, you know, hey, what's going on? And he was like, well, I'm thinking about breaking up with her because she put silicone on the hair on my arm, and it made me mad. I called her annoying, and I yelled at her, and she cried and went to another area where we work. So I just told him, don't be an asshole. It's what I said. And I was like, you know, hey, you know, you could have told her, you know, that's going to be painful to get out. And, you know, it kind of is. We got Gojo. But, like, you still got to kind of rub yourself raw almost to get that stuff out. Like, it's an understandable aggravation, but he was blowing it out of proportion at work. So, you know, tell him that, and hey, 7-8 months of dating each other, they're getting married, not even a year. I honestly, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure if that's going to work out for the long run. You know, I'm not preying on their downfall, but I honestly don't see that relationship lasting too well. But, like, it's just shit like that. Like, there's random shit on my fucking shelf of books, and, like, the fact that some of my property is actively getting destroyed because he wants to dig his feet into the fucking leg rest instead of let his legs rest on the leg rest. Or the fact that, you know, he gets mad because this is supposed to be where you leash your dog's area, and he'll just fucking chuck it right there, and it knocks over my Funko Pops, and they get chipped, they lose paint, or the random fucking soda, or the fact that they'll just randomly open my room to ask me to do something. Like, alright, listen here. Almost none of the trash that ever ends up in here is mine in the kitchen. It is almost always their stuff. Maybe sometimes one or two pieces. I will usually bag up any trash in my room, and then I'll take it out myself. It's actually what I'm about to do. Cleaning up my room. It is a little dirty right now. Otherwise, I would be showing you around. But I am cleaning it up. So, you know, just... There is a part of me that likes them, you know. but there is a part of me that, you know, just gets pissed off, and I'm very depressed living with them. And, you know, I don't have to worry too much because they plan on moving out soon. But, like, last night, he got, like, fucking snide with me, and it pissed me off. He asked me, so they put in this table, if you can call it that, and, they're playing. Put up this table. You can't tell I'm sick. I'm not at work today because I'm sick. And because I didn't feel well, I decided, you know, I was gonna go to bed early. Well, I was checking the dishes, and instead of saying, you know, hey, they call me Jacob. I don't really like Jacob. But they'll say, you know, hey, Jacob, can you come and remove this shit off of here? Not, you know, hey, Jacob, can you go move the package of Oreos that you've left on here? Or could you put this up, please? Or just put it up himself. Like, do you know how many times I put up their shit for them? And not like not in the way that they do, where they'll just grab shit that's on my shelf and decide it doesn't look good. And then, like, because, like, I had medication over there, I had, like, a area where I was putting some of my medication, because fast and easy. They put in my bathroom drawer, which overall isn't horrible. It's not. But I was looking. They're playing. I had to go out of my way. You would think they're tearing each other apart, but they're not. Thankfully. But, like, I had to look for my medications. Like, I really had to look for them. And then I finally just had to ask, you know, where are they? And that's when I was told, you know, they're there. It's like, oh, okay. Like, we'll go more into the buying bit now. So I talked about how, you know, because I spent so much money, I started buying more for me. That's one of the expenses right there, the TV. That is a 80-inch QLCD 4K, really good TV. It's a Samsung. I love it. This right here is my main media player. It's a FiiO 17, about $1,000. And these headphones, really expensive as well. And, you know, a lot of the Pokemon games that I recently got for my collection, like, I've owned them before, but through moves, they've gotten lost. I want them again. So I've been buying those, and some of those are like $150 a pop, complete in box. But I've had the money to do it. But doing it so much, I don't have as much money, and, you know, I also got to pay taxes. So, you know, there's also my fucking bass amp right here. If I can get it in frame. And then, you know, I got my keytar and my keytar amp in my room. And, you know, I got the actual bass in my room. All things that I have bought while having this job. And then, you know, there's all the Christmas presents I have bought for friends and family. So, you know, I got a bit of debt. Especially considering when I bought that. Well, his fiance was asking me to buy her a phone for her. And not just like any phone, it was going to be an iPhone, which, you know, those cost an arm and a fucking leg. I have several of them, usually via, you know, not actually buying them, but by signing a contract saying, you know, hey, I'm going to use your services for this free phone. So, you know, all of a sudden, I have to deal with, her asking for me to buy her a phone. And when I got this and I was showing her, and I listened to music to this every fucking day. The only time I kind of didn't is when my head was killing me from being sick. She also kind of got snide, but she was trying to hide and was like, not to sound rude or anything, why are you even buying that? You're not going to use it. And I kind of just looked back at her and I was like, I bought it because I'm going to use it. And I have used it so much, like almost every single fucking day, that's gotten several hours of use. And that's like the majority of it. Like, I used to do all the chores too. I just straight up stopped doing that because they weren't doing chores. They weren't doing their stuff around the place. And I kind of had enough because that's what it was like living with my parents. I was the one expected to do all the stuff, and if you just do it, it's going to be expected of you to just do it. And so, if it's in a tough spot, and I notice the same thing in the sink for 3 days in a row, I'll go ahead and do it just so we don't get fucking roaches. But like it you can't make some of this shit up. Like, and I know I've been all over the place, but I don't even know how to really script this, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm doing stuff for fun on part-time. I'm working 8 to 10 hours sometimes at my job, and then whenever the weekend's here, I just want to rest. Like, it's hard. And, like, at least it's not the 12 hours I used to do whenever I would work groceries sometimes, but there's just some stuff that it just grinds my gears living with them. And I wish things were better because I do have good memories with them, but they're kind of starting to get drowned out by nothing but bad. And I don't know, my grandma had recently died. That was another setback. It was actually Memorial Day. The day of Memorial Day, she died, and I didn't see until early morning after that she passed, more or less. Or was it Memorial? I think we worked Memorial Day, actually. Yeah, our work had us work Memorial Day, and at like 3 in the morning, I saw a message from my dad, I believe, that she died. So I got dressed up and I went to work, knowing that I wouldn't be able to talk to my grandma again. And I have a lot of regrets when it comes to that because I was just always so busy, either with friends, mostly work, that I would get home and I would just want to relax. I would want to relax, and I don't live close enough to just go down and see my grandma. She did have a phone. The few times I did call, more times than not, she would be asleep, so they never really got answered. But like, I feel horrible for that. I didn't really get to have a relationship with my grandma because she was usually living in Fisk, and I was usually living in Maine, or I was living in Bloomington, Indiana, or, just all over the fucking place. And so, uh, I had to buy a suit for her funeral, and my coworker Logan was gonna be. I didn't mean to say his name. He was gonna be late to pay rent, and I didn't want that affecting me negatively. So I paid the whole fucking rent on my own, and this was before there was 3 people. It was just me and him. His fiance hadn't moved in, which that was a whole thing. I had to pay for the fucking insurance per month through me for her as well. I was already paying for not just me, but also for him. So it's just very frustrating and fucking depressing, and like, I think how they move along is it's somehow always my fault. And that's just my assumption. I don't want to assume that, but that's what I assume with them, is that it's somehow always, you know, um, like, I fucking heard them outside, and she was upset that I was getting angry with them for just barging into my fucking room. And she called me a fucking pig. And I'm not gonna lie, my room is a mess right now. I am currently getting rid of like 2 trash bags out of my fucking room. Mostly pizza boxes. They're empty, but like, there's a small pile of empty soda cans in there too. And like, just hearing that, like, I never just barge in the room, for one, but for two, I wouldn't casually just be talking shit about them, especially not when they're sitting on the love seat that I also paid for. Like, all the fucking furniture, the fucking TV, the literally the fucking dresser that they have in there, my dad bought for him. Paid with his money, took him to go get it, and then set in there. And like, I'm stressed. My cholesterol, if I'm being honest, is probably fucking way too high, along with my blood sugar. And I don't know. Just, I guess if I were to give any word of advice, is make sure you really know who you're moving in with, I guess. Don't just move in with people and, expect everything to kind of be good. Which, I mean, I guess I wasn't really doing that myself. I kind of felt manipulated and pressured into doing it, because he was going out of his way and calling essentially my landlords to get a place, because the realtor, and not to get too much into it, like, it's just very, very stressful. I'm gonna go and clean my room. I'm gonna go into work tomorrow. It's probably gonna be a 10-hour day. Um, I'm just gonna hope that, you know, things get better while I work on learning how to drive and get a car, and then ultimately my own place where it's probably just going to be me. And I don't know if I can honestly afford just being me. I mean, I won't say it's impossible, but like, I'll admit it's kind of scary. Yeah. Uh, there's a very convoluted, I guess, kind of update, and you know why I'm depressed. It's kind of also my answer to why I haven't been streaming or making videos. I've just been so undermotivated because of all the bullshit that's been happening, either with family or with my own fucking roommates. And like, I've tried to practice Buddhism. Like, I'm not a hard guy to get along with, and yet I seem to, I don't know, like I have a feeling whenever I'm usually getting taken advantage of, but I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and it almost always comes back on me, which, you know, I'm not gonna say, you know, isn't partially true. You know, if you pick up a snake and it bites you and you pick it up again, that's on you. But yeah, um, I'm gonna try and start streaming again. I'm trying a lot of different stuff. Um, Pretty excited to try and get back to what was, and we'll see if we do. Um, I love you all. Um, YouTube has been a pretty big thing for me. You know, I'm not popular. I don't get a lot of, you know, comments, but just being able to, you know, just be out there and kind of state my grievances on the off chance, you know, someone's there that can give me some type of advice. It's good. It's nice. Um, Thank you, everyone. Bye.